Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to my channel, Gardening in Cold Spring Harbor. I hope all of you are staying safe and are doing well. Today I wanted to switch gears just a bit and talk about citrus trees. More specifically, how you can tell if your citrus tree is dead, dying, or diseased. So for those of you looking for that online gardening channel, which offers tips, tricks, easy, yet proven gardening advice to take your home gardens to that next level, please don't go anywhere, guys. Stick around with me today. Start with going below this video and clicking the subscribe button. If you want to get notifications from YouTube each time I'll upload a new video, please click the bell icon below as well. Don't forget to leave your comments in the comment section below. Lately, many more of you have been writing to me, asking me for gardening tips and advice, sharing your beautiful home garden stories, pictures, tips with me. And I truly and sincerely appreciate each and every single one of you. Now come with me. Let's talk about citrus trees and let's get gardening. Citrus trees are not only gorgeous because of their dark green, glossy, leathery foliage, they also reward us with bright, fragrant blooms and of course, delicious, healthy fruits. In US, citrus trees are hardy in USD zones 8 through 11. So for those of you, my fellow home gardeners who are lucky enough to live in warmer, southern climates, you can plant and grow your citrus trees directly outside in the soil of your home garden all year long. For those of us living in cooler gardening zones, and those are zone 7 and below, we have a great option to grow our citrus trees in pots or containers. During the warmer months, we can keep our pots or containers outside so our trees get more sunlight and more air circulation. And during the cooler months, we must always protect our citrus trees by bringing them inside indoors. The second the air temperatures go below 50 degrees Fahrenheit, we must always bring our citrus trees inside indoors. Regardless where you're growing your citrus tree, whether it's outside in the soil of your home garden or in a pot or a container, ideal air temperatures for growing citrus trees and to keep them happy and healthy are anywhere between 70 to 100 degrees Fahrenheit. Also, citrus trees need at least 8 to 12 hours of direct sunlight in order to thrive. Very clear indication of a happy, healthy citrus tree is the coloring and the condition of the plant's leaves or foliage. Healthy citrus trees will always have dark green colored leaves that are not only glossy, they should feel firm, almost leathery to the touch. You do not want to see any wilting, any leaf curling, any sign of discoloration, pigmentation on the leaves. And of course, you never want to see leaf drop. Any of those signs are an indication that something bad is happening to your citrus plant, and you should act immediately if you want to revive and save your citrus plant. Majority of the year, our healthy and happy citrus trees focus mainly on putting on new, bright, green, healthy foliage. Sometime around early spring season, if we continue to keep our citrus trees happy and healthy, you should start seeing flower bud and flower blooms. If you continue to keep your citrus plant healthy and happy, and not experience any flower bud or flower bloom drop, you will start seeing your citrus plant start to set fruits. They're going to start out very small in size, and over the period of 6 to 9 months, if again your plant continues to stay healthy and not drop any of these newly formed fruits, you're going to be ready to harvest your delicious citrus fruits. Now that we spoke about all the signs of a happy, healthy citrus trees, let's move on and talk about signs of an unhealthy, unhappy, diseased, dying, or even a dead citrus tree. The first obvious indication that the tree is getting unhealthy, unhappy, sick, and is potentially in the process of dying is the change in the coloring of the leaves of your citrus tree. The healthy leaves are always bright and green in color. If you start to see that the color changes from green to yellow or brown, that is an indication that your tree is getting sick. Yellow color is either an indication that you are overwatering your tree, hence causing root rot, or that your tree is not getting enough nutrients, specifically nitrogen. Lack of nutrients from either overwatering or not enough fertilization will lead to a disease called chlorosis, which is where the coloring changes from green to yellow. Also, look out for spots and or discoloration on the foliage as well. That could also be an indication of a pest issue or disease. If you see any unusual spots or discoloration on the foliage of your plant, or you see any visible holes or bite marks on the leaves, that is a very clear indication that you are having a pest or insect issue happening. What is the first step? The first step is to immediately remove all of the impacted leaves. Less is more in this case. There are many insects or pests that love to hide or harbor on top or below the surface of the leaves. Second step to take is to immediately spray down all sides of the leaves, as well as the trunk of the plant, as well as the soil surface, with neem oil. I like to purchase neem oil concentrate because it is more affordable, and I mix it with tap water according to the instructions, and I thoroughly spray my entire plant. Next step to take is to look around the soil surface and around the perimeter of your citrus plant. What are you looking for? You're looking for fungus gnats. Those are those tiny, dark colored, fruit fly-like insects that love flying around the plants, harboring and laying eggs on the soil surface. And eventually when those eggs hatch, fungus gnats do suck all the juices and the lives out of our plants, very similar to aphids. All of those pests are the mob bosses. And if we don't take control quickly and effectively, we potentially can lose our citrus plants. Not only spraying the leaves and the soil is what you're going to have to do. I like to use these sticky traps. They're bright in color. They come in various shapes. All you have to do is peel the outer sticker and place the strap anywhere on the soil surface. If for some reason you're not seeing fungus gnats flying around, these traps will help capture and trap the fungus gnats. The quicker you get rid of them, the quicker you'll help revive your plant back to health. Most common insects or pests that can affect the health of our citrus plants, making them sick, unhealthy, put them in the process of dying or even death, are aphids, mites, mealybugs, scale, or even fungus gnats. The next indication that our citrus plant is diseased, dying, is the shape of the foliage. If you see that the leaves of your citrus plant are curling either downward or upward, that is an indication that something wrong is happening to our plant. If the foliage is curling downward or wilting, most likely the cause for that is underwatering. So if you see that the leaves are drooping down, curling downward, try to water your plant thoroughly as soon as possible. Within a few hours, if that indeed was the issue, The foliage should bounce back to being leathery, glossy, and perked up. If the foliage is curling upwards like a saucer or a cup, most likely the cause is too much heat or sun exposure. When our citrus plants, especially kept outside with too much bright, hot sun exposure during the summer, the leaves naturally try to protect themselves from scald or burn by curling upwards. Also by curling upwards, forming a shape of a saucer. What that leaves are also doing is trying to minimize moisture evaporation, trying to preserve the moisture level within the plant's internal system. So if you see the leaves curling upward in the shape of a cup or saucer, the best thing you can do is relocate your citrus plant to a more shaded location or location with bright yet indirect sunlight. That next indication that our citrus plant is unhealthy, dying already, dead, is abnormal leaf drop. Whether your citrus plant drops a few leaves or its entire foliage, leaf drop is not a good sign. There are a few factors which can contribute to leaf drop. Those include pests or insects, abnormal watering habits, whether you underwater or overwater your plant, wrong pH level of the soil, nutrient misbalance, wrong light exposure. Now, I got this plant from a fellow neighbor who purchased it from a reputable plant nursery roughly 1 month ago. This happens to be the Ponderosa lemon variety. The mistake that my neighbor did was not protect this beautiful plant from cold air temperatures. He paid for the plant, wheeled it out in a shopping cart, placed it into his trunk, and brought it home without using any frost protection cloth, any bags, tarps, or even boxes. Few days after bringing the plant home, the plant experienced abnormal leaf drop. You could see for yourself, there's not a single leaf left on this plant. So what can I do now to potentially revive and save this plant? The first step is to check for viability. Just because there's not a single leaf left on this plant does not mean that this plant is dead or even dying. First thing to do is to look at the color of the branches and the main trunk. The color should be green. It should not be gray, brown, or black. The next thing you want to do is perform a finger scratch test. You're going to use the fingernail of your index finger to scratch the lower portion of the trunk right above the soil surface like this. You want to gently scratch and expose the trunk. You could see that below the skin surface, the trunk is still bright and green. That is an excellent indication that this plant, regardless of the abnormal foliage drop, is still alive. So if I take a few precautionary steps, I am well likely to revive this plant and bring it back to health. And once this plant is healthy and happy again, it will put back all of its foliage. So let's get started. Let's bring this plant back to health. If your citrus plant is experiencing discoloration on its leaves or foliage, most likely cause is nitrogen deficiency, especially if you see that the leaves are turning yellow and the veins on the leaves remain green in color. If that is the case, you should fertilize your citrus plant as soon as possible. You should always be using fertilizers which were specifically formulated for citrus plants. I love using this Jack's Classic Citrus Feed Fertilizer. It is water soluble as well, which is great because I get to dilute this fertilizer with tap water, water the soil surface of my plant, and the nutrients are available and accessible to my citrus plants much sooner than if you were to use your granular slow release fertilizer. You could see that this Jack's Citrus Feed fertilizer has an NPK ratio of 20:10:20. So it has a very high nitrogen composition, which will help revive that nitrogen deficiency in the foliage and turn the leaves from yellow back to green. For those of you, my fellow home gardeners who prefer to use organic, natural fertilizers, Aspomo Organic Citrus Tone is yet another amazing organic granular slow release fertilizer. It has an NPK ratio of 5:2:6. You could see that the nitrogen ratio is 5, which is great, as it's also going to help with the coloring of the foliage. And the phosphorus is 6. Phosphorus is directly responsible for the health of the plant's root system. Jack's Citrus Feed has the ratio of 20 in its phosphorus composition, which is also very, very high. So you know that either one of these fertilizers will help keep our citrus plants healthy, thriving, and happy. Other than underwatering or overwatering, wrong pH level of the soil is also a contributing factor to disease or even death in our citrus plants. Ideal pH level of the soil for growing citrus plants should be 6.5 to 6.8, and that is on the acidic side. If the soil is too alkaline, and that's 7.0 or above, your plant will start to get unhealthy, experience a leaf drop, flower drop as well, and eventually lead to death of your plant. I personally use this handy, inexpensive meter to not only check for moisture level in the soil, but also for light exposure and to test the pH level of the soil. I check for pH level every 2 weeks and adjust it accordingly using soil acidifiers if I have to. I wait until the arrow is on at least number 2 or below before I rewater again to avoid excessive moisture, root rot, or inviting on those unwanted fungus gnats. I'm going to link this meter in the comment section below for those of you who are interested in purchasing one as well. Remember guys, movement is stressful for everyone, including our precious plants. For those of us who keep our citrus plants in pots outside during the warmer months and then move them on inside for the colder fall and winter months, remember to transition your plants slowly. We never want to just simply bring them inside quickly and expose them to different air temperatures as well as different light exposures. Drastic movement will lead to stress for a plant, will potentially lead to not only leaf drop, but to death of our plant as well. When questioning viability of our citrus plants, other than the obvious physical signs such as abnormal leaf drop, flower drop, citrus fruit drop, visible signs of pests or insects, or even discoloration, another thing we must always look out for is the change in the coloring of the branches. Our branches on our citrus tree should always be green in color, firm to the touch, never beige, brown, black, or hollow. When trying to bend the branches delicately, they should always feel firm, bouncy, and almost push your fingers back. That's an indication that this branch is healthy, happy, and is not dying or dead. If you attempt to bend the branch down and it snaps off and falls off, that is an indication, obvious indication that unfortunately the branch is dead. One more way to tell is to use clean scissors or pruning shears and to cut right below the dying area where the branch is still potentially green in color and alive. Once you will cut off the brown or the dying area, look at the remaining area of the branch. Make sure that what you see inside is full, firm area that is not beige, brown, black, or hollow. Try to bend the branch down again and make sure that it bounces back. Any dead or dying, diseased areas of the branches must be cut off as soon as possible. Less is more here. If you leave dying areas on the branches intact on your plant, majority or all of the branches will start to die off as well. The first step that I'm going to take right now to try to save and revive this beautiful lemon plant, which we just saw is still luckily alive, is I'm going to repot it into this brand new terracotta containers. So there should be two reasons as to why you want to repot your citrus plant. The first reason is if your citrus plant outgrew its existing container, and one way to tell is if you start seeing the roots exposed on top of the soil surface, or the roots are starting to come through the draining holes on the bottom of your container. The second reason is any indication of pests, insects, or disease. This plant is clearly very unhealthy and very unhappy. Hence, it dropped all of its leaves. So I'm going to repot it into brand new, larger sized terracotta container, which I have right over here. Terracotta material is amazing for planting and growing citrus because it allows for even air circulation through the surface of the pot. Hence, it allows the moisture content in the soil to evaporate much quicker. Make sure that the pot which you choose, which have plenty of drainage holes on the bottom, it will be no bigger than 25% larger than the existing container. One way you could tell is by placing the existing container into the new container and seeing how much more distance you have around the container. You want to make sure that you will also have at least 1 inch of space from the soil surface to the edge of the new container. Also, when planting and growing citrus, make sure that the container which you will choose will have a saucer or a water tray to go along with it. So we not only don't make a mess, we don't destroy the furniture in our house as well. You're going to need a fertilizer. I'm going to use this Jack's Classic water-soluble fertilizer at the time of planting today. Why? Because I want to give that nutrient boost to my sick lemon plant as soon as possible. And by using water-soluble fertilizer, you're going to give that boost of nutrients much quicker than if you were to use granular slow-release fertilizer. Also, I'm going to be using specific citrus and cacti formulated potting mix. This happens to be by Miracle Grow, but you can use any other brand available out there. Why should you never use garden soil, traditional potting mix? Because the soil that you will be using has to be airy, loose, and very well draining. When choosing the correct container to grow or even repot your citrus plant, make sure that the container will be well draining. Make sure it will be large enough to support the growing root system of your plant. Ideally, the container should be roughly 10 to 12 inches in diameter. Again, terracotta is a great material to use when planting and growing citrus fruits. The first step is to pre-fill your empty new container roughly quarter way with your new well-draining potting mix. No more than a quarter way. I wanted to tilt and show you that I filled this container roughly 1/4 full with this dry, brand new potting mix. Step number 2. That next step, once you pre-filled your container quarter way up, is to water the soil, the potting mix, which you just placed in the container. Not too much, just to have a bit of even moisture, to eliminate air pockets, and to give a great new head start to our citrus plant. Step number 2 is to gently loosen up your plant from its existing container. If it's too snug, too tight, you want to tap from the bottom, tap it on the sides, and gently pull using your fingers right at the soil surface. You will need some sort of a newspaper or cloth to help protect your table surface. Next step is you want to loosen up the root ball, especially if it's very tangled, very matted. All you have to do is use the ends of your fingertips to loosen it up. Inspect for mold, rot, any visible sign of pests or insects on the root system as well. If everything looks healthy and well, it's time to position your plant inside your new planting container. When repotting your citrus plants into a new container, make sure that the graft union, which is the spot over here, where the dwarf plant was grafted with a new plant variety, will remain above soil surface. Also, when backfilling, make sure you will always leave at least 1 to 2 inches of space empty between the top portion of the soil surface and the edging of your container. The next step is to position your plant in the center of the new container. Again, make sure that the union graft or the graft union right over here will remain exposed above the soil surface. And we evenly start to fill up the remainder of the container with our citrus potting mix. You can readjust the plant accordingly to ensure that it's evenly positioned in the center. I wanted to show you up close right over here, yet another reason why I love using terracotta containers for planting and growing citrus. You can clearly and visibly see the moisture content inside the soil when using terracotta containers. You can see that they start to change color as you start to add moisture to the soil of your plant. Now that I backfilled the plant, you want to ensure that you gently tap on the soil, again, to eliminate potential air pockets. You want to make sure that no roots are visibly exposed, but at the same time, you will still have about 2 inches of space left on top of the container. And once you backfill the soil, it's going to be time to water and to fertilize your newly planted citrus tree. Now that we have finished potting up our citrus plant, next very important step is to not only water the soil thoroughly, but also to give that nutrient boost. If your plant is really struggling, is sick, unwell, we do not want to wait too long for the nutrient absorption by adding granular soil release fertilizer. The best thing to do when a plant is really dire in need of nutrients is to use water-soluble fertilizer. Today I'm going to be using Jack's Citrus Feed. Very clear instructions on the back of the packaging. Also tells you the percentage of each of the nutrients within this fertilizer. Per gallon of water, when your plant is growing inside indoors, you're going to need 1/4 of a teaspoon of Jack's fertilizer. Comes very handy scoop with very visible measurements on the side of the scoop. At the very bottom, this is exactly 1/4 of a teaspoon. I'm going to mix it with 1 gallon of room temperature tap water. When watering citrus, tropical plants, orchids, I always like to keep my water on the warmer side, not to cause any shock to the root system of the plant. I'm going to pour it in, mix it thoroughly. You can use a spoon, a stick to help you mix as well. And then you want to pour around the plant's root ball system. The goal is to water thoroughly. You want to make sure that each side of the root ball will get equal amount of watering and fertilization. After you have thoroughly watered your freshly planted citrus plant, leave it be exactly where it is. Give at least 30 minutes for that moisture and those nutrients to go down into the entire root ball system. After 30 minutes, if you will see any excess moisture in the water saucer or the tray below, spill it out. Never leave your citrus plant sitting in something us gardeners like to call wet feet, as it can potentially lead to root rot. Last but definitely not least fact to cover is watering. How often should we be watering citrus plant? I always wait until the soil below my citrus plant is almost completely dry before I rewater. If you have a handy moisture meter, wait until the arrow is at least on number 2, if not lower, before you rewater. For those of you who don't have a moisture meter, you can use your index finger, place it inside the soil, roughly 3 to 4 inches below, to feel for moisture content. If you feel moisture, you see moisture, please do not water again. Check within the next day or 2 using the same method. If you feel the soil is completely dry or almost completely dry, time to rewater thoroughly again. Please remember to spill out any excess moisture that's remaining in the saucer 30 minutes after you water. This is it for this video, guys. Thank you so much for joining me here today in my home garden in Long Island, New York, gardening zone 7A. In today's video, we spoke in great depth how you can tell if your citrus tree is dead, dying, or is unfortunately diseased. We also spoke in great depth about how you can save, revive your dying citrus tree by simply transplanting it. If you enjoyed the content of this video, if you found today's video to be useful, helpful, informative, don't be shy, guys. Show me that support by clicking thumbs up below. Please take the time to leave your comments in the comment section below as well. I take the time to read each and every single one of your comments, and I respond to each and every single one of you. For those who have been considering yet haven't subscribed to my gardening channel, please do so right now by going below this video and clicking the subscribe button. If you click the bell icon below as well, YouTube will send you notifications each time I upload a new video. Stay healthy, happy, be well, each and every single one of you. And happy gardening, guys, and I'll see you again in my new upcoming videos. Bye, guys.